Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Music and Memoirs. This is our first actual album that we're doing. Um, we did try to record 2 episodes the same day we recorded that first one, or right after. It did not work, so here we are. This is why it's also been like 2 or 3 months since that first one came out. Um, Today we are doing an album called Heroine, not like a female hero, not like the drug. To be clear. This is a band called Thornhill. Um, this was Caden's idea. He, told me about it. I listened through it, and we both thought it was pretty damn good. So we're gonna run through and talk about the 11 tracks on the album. Those are going to be the Hellfire Club, Leather Wings, Blue Velvet, Archangel, Valentine, which is my personal favorite, Casanova, Something Terrible Came with the Rain, Hollywood, Raw, Varsity Hearts, and then the title track Heroine. So we'll run through that. I did not take any notes because I'm stupid. So I'm just going to be winging this.
I've listened to it a bunch of times, so
yeah, me too.
A lot of notes.
Yeah, I definitely am less familiar with like the last 3 tracks, but I still enjoyed them and I thought they were pretty good. I'll still probably defer to you on those, but I guess we could go ahead and jump right in with the Hellfire Club. I'll let you kind of start and I'll follow up.
Gotcha. So this is definitely one of the better songs on the album. I think it's it's really it kind of shows a lot of what this album does, because this used to be, well, I guess you could still say they were a metalcore band, and then this album they kind of went a more alternative metal direction. They're getting compared to Deftones a lot with this.
That's definitely something I noticed a lot, especially with the vocals and the lyrics themselves.
Absolutely, and what's funny is that I think in interviews they've said that they weren't really influenced by Deftones.
Really?
It just kind of felt that way. Yeah, they became aware of it, or I think a couple of band members knew of Deftones, and then they really became aware of the fact that this new direction they were going in sounds like Deftones as they were making the album. So then it influenced the rest of the making of it. But like when they first started making it, they didn't realize that that's what they were doing. And it doesn't and even though it's getting compared to Deftones, it doesn't really sound like Deftones.
No.
But but you can tell that
it sounds like it's influenced for sure.
Yeah, it's in that vein, which is really cool because that's Deftones have a very unique sound within alternative metal, and it's kind of nice to see other bands doing that. Like I've heard there's a band called Loathe that's doing it also, and then there's a few others. But I think this this album is kind of the best kind of I don't want to say knockoff Deftones, but just derivative. But it's unique enough that it stands out on its own. It doesn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't if you hadn't told me the name of the album or who made it or anything, I wouldn't have thought it was Deftones.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it has a similar kind of groove to it, and I like that. But the Hellfire Club is definitely one of my favorites. It has just this. It has a nice kind of smooth sound all the way through it.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are really cool. It's got a pretty interesting kind of lyrical message, I guess. I'm not good at deciphering lyrics, but
yeah. I mean, it's very I feel like a lot of these songs are really about relationships and a toxic relationship, that kind of thing, whether it's one way or the other,
Yep.
I think that's an overarching theme for the album, actually.
Definitely.
Because, it ends with, no, I know places you won't see, no, I would follow you anywhere, no, I would swallow you whole.
Yeah. There's some really clever kind of excuse me, I can't talk. Some really clever wording in here. But I really like the part where he's like, people stay much longer in my head than in my life, so please don't go again. That's an interesting
Yeah,
lyric.
I thought that was really. I thought that
See a
was really
lyric
cool.
quite like that. Yeah.
Also, my pizza's. I gotta go grab my pizza real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Whatever you have, I caught through the screen.
The remainder of my cold. um, but yeah, it's a great song, and it seems like it's one of the more popular songs off this album without it even having been a single. I think it was even the Spotify's top song for a
Really?
while for their page. Yeah,
Huh.
but that could also be because it came out. Yeah, it is. It's their most popular song right now. At the moment, it doesn't have the most views, but it
Shout out to those of you listening on Spotify. Sorry.
yeah, I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that Stranger Things just came out, and there's the Hellfire Club in that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, with their D&D club and the
Oh,
show.
Right. I
So
haven't
that,
seen. I haven't finished season 3 or seen season 4, so no spoilers.
oh well, yeah.
I need to.
Season 4 is the best season of the show, hands down.
I'm aware of that of the Eddie guy.
Oh, Eddie, yeah, he's probably the best new character that the show has.
Nice.
But yeah, I think the song is great. It has I think this song probably is the most like Deftones in my opinion. Out of
Yeah.
the only other one that's even Casanova maybe, but even then Casanova's a little different.
Yeah,
So
it is. It's its some kind of
yeah,
unique thing. It's more metalcore.
or Leather Wings even reminds me a little bit of certain Deftones songs, but it's not. That's the only comparison I can give it. I mean, because the rest of this album really stands on its own. But Hellfire Club is a great introduction to the album.
I agree.
It starts off strong and then it ends.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think a lot of my input for most of the podcast today is going to be I really liked it, but I mean, because I did sit because I listened to it in the car. And then I listened to it. I actually sat down and listened to it. I was making breakfast this morning. I started listening to it there. Then I sat down and actually looked through the lyrics on Spotify. And I've had it kind of on loop while I've been working on some other stuff, just for my personal channel and everything. And I've been listening to it while I've been doing that. So,
Yeah, I've listened to most of
you cut out.
my listen. Oh,
You cut out.
am I good now?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. Okay, am I good now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Most of the listens that I've done for the album, I haven't looked at the lyrics, so I've only actually looked at the lyrics for a couple of songs.
Really?
Yeah, and I was actually it was kind of neat because what I thought was being said was definitely not what was written down. So
Yeah. Because I know.
but that's usually the case.
Yeah.
So
That's how it usually goes. But I know especially in Valentine, which was like I said. At least before,
yes.
at least I said. I don't know if I said it on camera, but that was definitely my favorite song off the album. Just it's very. I like it. It's very subtle and just kind of.
Yeah,
You know.
it's got a really kind of noirish kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I love bass, and just I can tell that's
Yes.
very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Not heavy, but like it's very rooted in the bass line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
But I know at one point they said forever. What was it? I forget the lyric, but they were saying mystery and then memory, but I kept thinking they were saying misery.
yeah,
What is it?
yeah.
Because I'm forever trusting your mystery, and then. Oh, here it says mystery twice. But in one of the other, on Spotify it says memory, and I think memory's more.
It's always hard to tell which lyric site is accurate.
Yeah.
Or-
I'm gonna. I'm, for this, I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna defer to Spotify, but
Yeah, Spotify tends to be fairly accurate. At times, it's not.
at times not.
Because I think they pull from Genius, if I'm not mistaken. So, and that usually they've got it, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah, because I know also like there's a band I found recently called Gershok. They had like a Metallica cover, and a lot of theirs were either not
Okay.
listed at all or wrong.
Nice. I know there were a few tracks on here that the lyrics they didn't have all the lyrics for. But then again, this is a fairly new album. It's only been out
Yeah,
for 2 months now, almost. So
gotcha.
it's yeah. I don't expect them to have it on there yet, but yeah. I guess do you have any more thoughts on Hellfire Club?
On Hellfire Club, no. It's very. I definitely. I like the kind of the lows and highs of it. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
has like it kind of goes subtle and then it picks back up and is going.
Mhm.
And I that's one thing I liked about Deftones and I like about these guys is just how they kind of switch that back and forth. Because I always like that. I mean, just that like soft and then heavy and then going back. And I really like their heavies. Um,
Yeah.
Hellfire Club was one of those where it just kind of it opens strong
Mhm.
and then kind of fades in and out.
Yeah. Really strong opener.
Yep, pizza's done again. I'll pop that out real quick. Be right back.
Okay.
All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, we can move on to Leather Wings.
Okay.
Um,
This is the one song that kind of grew on me a little bit. Because when I first listened to it, there's a criticism that this album has been getting about the mix kind of being a little overbearing, the vocals being drowned in the mix, things like that.
yeah,
Uh, which I mean that's a fair criticism, but I don't think it's quite as warranted. I Because listening to this album enough, you can hear all the lyrics.
yeah,
You can hear the vocals. None of it's really being drowned out. I think it is just it's not as clear as like the previous music,
yeah,
but it's fine because this is a stylistic choice.
yeah. I feel like
Um,
it's definitely stylistic more than anything. I don't think it would be
uh,
as good otherwise.
and there's definitely more dynamic vocal performances on this album
Mm-hmm.
than from what I have heard of their first album. But Leather Wings took me a little while to get it, but it's probably one of the heaviest songs on the album, um, or close to. I think there's maybe another song that's a little heavier than this one, but it definitely has a very chaotic kind of feel to it.
Yeah, kind of like a
Um,
downward spiral type of feel. I feel like.
yeah, and I find myself enjoying it more and more as I listen to it more. It definitely grows on me, and I like the way that they handled I like the way that they handled the screamed vocals at the end of the song. Because I generally don't care for screamed vocals.
Yeah,
I used to when I was younger and I was into post-hardcore and metalcore music and stuff. But
yeah,
as I've gotten older, I find it grating and it's hard for me to want to listen to it. But I like what they've done here because this is like one of three songs maybe that have scream vocals on them
mm-hmm.
out of this entire album. And even then, it's only a very short
Yeah,
sequence, and it's at the very end of the song, and it's an intense moment.
right.
And I think it's handled very well.
Yeah,
And almost every other instance on this album is the same kind of way, and I like that. I feel like I like that they're not relying on the scream vocals because I feel like that's a big criticism I have of heavier music, particularly metalcore or
yeah,
hardcore music, is that they rely too much on screamed vocals
I
and
would.
less on melody and trying to actually sing
Yeah,
with vocalists. And I know that that can be kind of a crutch for some of them. And I don't know. I'm not, in a band or a vocalist or anything
right.
like that, so I can't really comment too much on why. But I don't enjoy listening to that when it's overdone. But
Yeah,
I think they have struck something pretty. They, I am impressed considering that about half of their vocal stuff in the previous album was screen vocals,
right.
from as far as I can tell, and I'm very impressed that uh, Jacob, their vocalist, has kind of gone this route, um, and I like what they've done with
Yeah,
it here. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a good song. It's definitely not my favorite or in maybe my top three, top four on this album, but it is a
right.
good song. It's a good follow up to Hellfire Club, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, again, I mean, I'm a little. That's the thing, because one thing I really liked, and one thing I always kind of gravitate toward when we do these, or I've attempted to in the past, is the melody of the song and everything, and just the music more than the vocals.
Yep.
I mean, or rather, not even so. The vocals, yes. The lyrics, not so much. And then I go in and look at the lyrics. I'm like, holy shit. Um, for this one, I have the lyrics pulled up here. Um,
I have not looked at the lyrics for the song.
really,
Yeah, this is one of the ones I haven't looked up anything for. Because really, the only songs I've really looked up the lyrics for is Hellfire Club, um, Archangel, and Heroine.
gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, the lyrics
so
here. I mean, this is the second verse. She said, "I don't mind if I can fly. Well, awaken to my head, leather wings until I'm dead. You can fight me as much as you like. I won't love you however you like. You can draw me in like you want. I know it's over." So, I mean, I feel like it's probably, I don't know,
yeah,
I feel like it's very breakup oriented. I feel like most of the songs on this album are about either breakups or relationships gone very poorly. Um,
yeah,
Excuse me, my rabbit is trying to eat the carpet. Give me one moment.
okay,
Cosmo! Ugh. I was
yeah.
going to try and catch him and bring him over here and show him off, but he didn't want to be picked up. Anyway,
um, yeah, yeah, I think this one definitely is a relationship gone sour.
right.
Absolutely, this one.
Which which is weird because when I first listened to it, and that was a few weeks ago, because I went through the first couple songs on the album a while back, and then I was like, okay, we're going to record this actually, so I should probably go through it again. I felt like it was more. I like the like angelic kind of comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
Leather wings, like kind of being held down. I feel like leather wings would not be
Hmm.
comfortable, I guess, or help you fly
Yeah.
because leather's pretty
Yeah.
heavy. So I think it's kind of a lot about like being weighed down or being,
Yeah.
I
It
think that's
seems to
what.
be with some of the lyrics, him talking about being cold and things like that.
Yeah,
Which that's an interesting perspective. You don't usually see as much in songs like that.
yeah,
Is the himself being the one that's not interested in the relationship.
yeah,
So that's kind of interesting. Um, or at least it's not a perspective that I see very often. But
yeah.
yeah,
I do think it's interesting though. All right,
yeah,
are we ready to move on to Blue Velvet?
yes.
All right.
I'm very curious to know if Blue Velvet, if they are referring to the movie Blue Velvet, the David Lynch movie. Um, I get that vibe from this. It's a very noir surrealism kind of movie, um, and I know that a lot of these songs um, are influenced heavily by film and television.
Yeah,
So I'm willing to bet that this song has some relation to that movie. I could be completely wrong, and I'm blowing smoke out of my ass, but I think I
gotcha.
get that. You know,
Well, I'm looking at the lyrics here, and now Blue Velvet. Listening to it, it's not that I wasn't impressed. I just kind of was skipping it because I think Archangel comes directly after it, and then it's Archangel, Valentine, and Casanova, which are probably my three favorites. So I was kind of like, whatever, fuck Blue Velvet, and I'm gonna go into these other songs. So I'll be honest that my understanding of Blue Velvet was I kind of skimmed over it a little bit. Um, but so these are the first three. I'm gonna read off the first three verses, and they're pretty short. Um, okay, I can't hear you. Okay, your velvet
oh,
dress close to your chest, into low, into lover. Your skin so sweet, I move to your beat, into slow, into baby. Because I'm enough to be safe, I want you to sail away till it's safe. I need you to hide away, I need you to fly away. I want you to save enough till it's safe. And basically, from what I'm seeing here, it looks very much like it's a relationship where she's kind of keeping him under control, and he doesn't feel like she's going to stick around, um, because
Like,
he's too much.
like, yeah. Yeah, this is one I haven't really looked quite at the lyrics too much to, but yeah, I mean, it definitely has that. It feels like it's probably in that vein.
Yeah.
I definitely really like the. This is probably one of my favorites on the album, or in probably my top three at least.
Really.
Uh, yeah, and it's just this one. It reminds me again with the Deftones comparison, but it reminds me in a very small way of "Sex Tape" from Deftones, which
Okay.
is my favorite Deftones song. But it has a similar kind of feel to it, but the lyrics are completely different. There's nothing even remotely close between both songs here. But
Yeah.
I just like the vibe that the song gives off. It has a really kind of calm because you go from two songs that are um, pretty consistent in their sound.
Hmm.
Well, Love is a little over the place, but they're both heavy songs,
Right.
and they both start and they both they keep going the whole time, and then at the end of that screamed vocal part track and Leather Wings, it fades right into the song,
Yeah.
right into the opening guitar parts, and I really like, in particular, the second verse after the chorus when they repeat it. The guitar line in that part is one of my favorite guitar lines on the whole album. Uh, it just has a really somber, melancholic feel to it,
Yeah.
and I really like that. But it's only in that section, and it's one of those. It's a guitar line that you have to kind of listen for because it's not overbearing or anything, but it's really in the background.
Yeah.
And but if you listen for it and you hear it, then you can't not hear it.
Right.
It's just things that you gravitate to listening to every time you get to that part of the song,
Right.
and I really like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blue Velvet is definitely, and it could also, it could also be because I'm thinking of the movie Blue Velvet when I think of it, and I love David Lynch, so
Right.
like that could be why I like the song so much. If that is if that is indeed what that song is referencing, but with the
Yeah.
name like Blue Velvet, I would think. But
You would think. I'm curious.
yeah, I'm sure there are. I haven't really looked online to see if anyone's linked these songs to anything. The only other song I know that is related to anything is Heroine, and that's related to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Um,
Right.
but that's the only explicit, example or that I know of.
Gotcha.
Songs related to something, but
That's cool. I didn't know that.
yeah. Well, it doesn't directly reference anything from Buffy, but they are going for a vibe that there's an episode in season 3, prom episode. They were going for, or like a homecoming episode. They were going for that vibe that episode gives off. Um, and I think they achieved that because I've seen that episode before, so
Right.
I'm familiar with that.
Right. I've never
But
seen Buffy, so I should probably get on that.
it's worth watching. It's a little campy and it's a
Oh, it's the
little
'90s. I mean,
goofy at times. Yeah, late '90s, early 2000s, but it paved the way for a lot of what television does now.
right.
So without that show, television wouldn't quite be where it's at. I don't think.
Gotcha.
Um, but that's
Have to check it out. Um,
yeah,
so our next song is Archangel,
yes.
which this was the first song I heard because Caden sent it to me. Um,
I don't even remember how this came about my radar. I was on YouTube and I think it was in my recommended feed,
yeah.
and which I thought was strange because I don't listen to metalcore music, so I thought it was weird that popped up.
Right.
It could have been a day when I was kind of feeling nostalgic and I was listening to things that I used to like, um, and that could be why it popped up. I don't know, but
Right.
I'm glad it did because
Yeah.
fantastic album. So I'm glad that popped up.
Agreed. Agreed.
But Archangel really, Archangel was probably my favorite singles. Um,
Were there more than
Casanova.
what were the
What's that?
singles? What were the singles? I thought Archangel
Um,
was the only one.
no, so Archangel, Casanova, Raw, and Hollywood were the four singles off the album.
Okay.
Um, I, I think I think Casanova was the first one.
Oh,
Maybe
really?
is either Casanova or Hollywood. I could be butchering that though.
Gotcha.
But I think it was Casanova. But Archangel was the first one I heard, and Archangel was my favorite of all the singles until the album released, and then I listened to it more, and it's now Casanova. That's
Yeah,
my favorite of the
I
singles.
can see that. Casanova's really good.
Yeah, but
But
Archangel though is fantastic.
it is. I
Um,
agree.
it definitely gives me that. I guess that nostalgic kind of feel because it reminds me a lot of early 2000s alternative rock, early
Yeah.
2000s metal with like the alt metal that has that kind of gothic slant
Yeah.
without it actually being like Evanescence kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, it has that feel. Now that could just be because of the music video, but it definitely has an interesting groove to it. Nice sound. It's yeah, one of the best songs in the album, honestly.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And just that chorus, that "Cause You're My Angel" line is just the vocals are crazy on this one. I mean, and
Yes.
I didn't dislike the vocals, but they weren't like blowing me out of the water for the majority of the album. I did like Archangel for the like part of the reason I liked Archangel was the vocals. Um,
Yes. Archangel works the best when you haven't heard anything else of theirs, I think,
mm,
because of the way vocals progresses on that song. There's a very clear progression of the vocals on Archangel.
yeah.
You know, listen to the song until like the second major, I think second
Sorry,
major
one
chorus.
sec.
Oh, you're good. But
I,
yeah, it's what's kind of neat. The song, I think that Archangel is referencing a lot of the Icarus story of flying too close to the sun.
right. I mean, literally, the first line is "Fly away with me into the sun."
Yeah, which I just think the imagery in the song is really cool. It has a very unique. It's very how it's very focused.
Yeah.
It's not particularly deep. It's not particularly complex, but it's focused,
Yeah.
and it has a unique flair that pairs well with the music itself.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a few parts in particular that are just like the ending bit of the song where it goes more instrumental and it stops being heavy and it goes more to an instrumental kind of
Right.
feel. That's my favorite part of the song, and it's just because of the way that everything building up to it leads into that and it drops off like that.
And
Um,
I really like how that leads into Valentine too.
yes, it leads very well into Valentine. That's one thing this album does really well. The
Yeah.
songs feed into each other very well. There's only
Yes.
a couple songs. There's only really one song that feels out of place in this Varsity Blues, but that's um, you know, but that's a good song too. It's just it doesn't really fit.
Which one is it?
Varsity, I think it's Varsity Blues.
Okay.
That one doesn't have a. That one has a weird or Varsity Hearts. My
Yeah.
bad. That one has a weird kind of intro to it that doesn't really feel like it fits, but
Yeah.
fine because the rest of the song's great. So, you know, but yeah, yeah, Archangel is great. It's I listened to it a bunch when I first found it, and then I started listening to the other singles, and that was my favorite for a while.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Casanova I think is the better song of the two, but not by a whole lot.
Yeah.
They're pretty close.
Yeah. I mean, the whole album's awesome. I mean, I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, yeah. Which I know that Casanova was people didn't like it a whole lot when it first dropped
Really.
as a single. Yeah, a lot of people were kind of confused by it. They weren't really sure what to think, but then it grew on everybody.
Huh.
It's one of those songs that kind of grows on everyone, and I guess it's a lot of people.
You're cutting out.
Off the album. And it's just it. Oh, okay. And is it better now or is
You're
it
good now.
still?
Yeah. Yeah. You're good.
Cool. But yeah. Any thoughts on Archangel?
Just that I liked it. I definitely see I feel like there's an overarching. I think it's an overarching theme throughout the album of self hatred. I see that a lot in Archangel, um,
Hmm.
but also like almost narcissism from the narrator.
Yeah.
Um, like everything you've ever wanted to be was in the image of me, girl. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that also ties into your Icarus theory for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. So there was a level of ego or narcissism within
Yeah,
the Icarus, thinking he could fly too close, and
yeah,
we all know what happened there.
yeah.
So.
All right. Well, if you're ready, we can go ahead and move on to Valentine, which I'm not excited at all about. Um, so yeah,
No.
Valentine. What?
Mhm.
Oh, Valentine was my favorite song off the album. I just loved the. It starts off kind of not no. It starts off very kind of subtle, and then moves into a not. It is a little heavier, but it's still a very subtle bass.
Mhm.
It's very, like you said, noir themed. You can tell it's a very simple bass line, but not.
Yeah.
It's not like
But good.
yeah. It's very. It's like one of the albums we tried to record and failed at was "Dirt" by Alice in Chains, and the final song on that album is "Wood," which some of you have probably heard. Caden, you've obviously heard it. But the opening is a very very simple bass line. It's literally like this is what you do when you're playing it. This is it. It's basically just the two fingers. Um, I feel like that Valentine has a very simple bass line like that too. I haven't looked up the tabs or anything, but that's my impression. Um, and the tone and everything of it with the almost whispered vocals, I really liked it.
I think it's. I think it's. I think it's great that he's trying different vocal styles like that.
Agreed.
I felt comfortable enough to do almost an entire song in falsetto, or at least
Right.
the last half of the song.
Yeah.
I think the song is so different from the rest of the album
Agreed.
that I'm really glad it's there. That and something terrible came with the rain. I think those two songs are excellent inclusions on the album
Agreed.
because they're so different from everything else.
Yeah. And
Um,
from each other.
yeah, and from each other too. Yeah, they're two very different songs, and I think that shows a lot of maturity that they're willing to make something that is that out there,
Right.
different.
Agreed.
And I always like it when bands do that.
Hmm.
So Valentine definitely hits that, checks that mark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's very. I'm gonna read the last verse real quick, and this is sung in a very very well done falsetto, and I agree with you. Like I really actually liked the falsetto vocals on the song, and I don't like falsetto vocals.
yeah,
You
I'm very
learn,
picky with it.
yeah, me too. You lure me in vicariously like a bullet. You can pull it and release my thread. Just release my thread, no, release my thread, babe. And this is all while that very just saw it's. Oh, I love that bass line. It's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rabbit's doing. So yeah, that's Valentine, and
Yep.
yeah, I really liked Valentine. That's definitely my favorite song off the album, like I said. Um,
Yep.
and then we have not Thornhill's the band. Casanova. Casanova.
Yep. Casanova. Yeah, Casanova is very good. It's got a great groove.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Great vocal performances on that song, and that's one of the few that they have a professionally done live recording of on YouTube as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was for the Like a Virgin. I don't know if that's a channel or if that's a show or something, but they performed that one.
That's
on
Madonna's
there.
song, Caden.
Well, yeah, but it's I
Oh,
they
okay.
have other artists that show up and do
Okay.
a Like a Virgin and then the band. So I don't know if it's just the channel name or something, but
Yeah.
but yeah, if you search Like a Virgin and Thornhill Casanova, that'll pop up. But it's fantastic live. It's almost better live than it is
I
in the
can
recording.
see that.
Yeah,
I can see these
they
being really really good live, actually.
I think that was what won over a lot of people with the song was them seeing them play it live.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's definitely a live song, but it has a really nice kind of. The chorus is fantastic. The chorus is my favorite part, obviously, on the song, but I like how ethereal it gets out of nowhere,
Yeah,
but then it's back into what it's doing.
right.
Groove heavy song. Casanova and Hollywood are a lot alike in that sense.
Yeah,
Those two songs do that very well. Um, but yeah, I mean Casanova is just, it's great. It's got a great groove to it, great vocals, great instrumentation. The guitar solo is nice at
yep.
the end of the song, um, and yeah, it's a good song. I mean, it's nothing overly complex or complicated, but it's
It's just good, which I feel like is kind of this album. I
yeah,
feel like it's
yeah,
very. I froze. It's very simple but very good. That's one thing
yes,
I really like. It's one thing I like about Dirt. Um, it's so
yes,
simple, but it's so good.
yes,
And
yeah,
you don't have to do all this crazy shit. You know,
yeah.
just setting a
Well, and
tone. I
they
feel like is
absolutely yeah, and they found a way to change their sound and to stay consistent within that new sound.
right.
Um, I just hope that the what little negative reception they have gotten for this doesn't dissuade them from continuing this way,
I would agree.
because it's kind of what I've found and what I've looked up online is it seems like the people that are liking this album are the most are the people that are not familiar with their first album
I can see
and
that.
not metal fans. And so this album is drawing in fans from other places,
Right.
people that had heard of them before. I never heard of them before this.
Me neither.
Uh, I found out about this band like a week before the album came out. So I listened to the singles for a week before this album came out. So I was it drew me in, and I don't like metalcore.
Right.
I know like their first album, what songs I've heard, while it might be good metalcore music, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just what I've heard from their first album, I don't care for it. But this stuff, I love it, and
Right.
so I think they're hitting a new audience.
They're diversifying.
Yeah, they're diversifying and they're doing something different.
Right.
And a lot of bands, what I have noticed over the years is a lot of bands within the metalcore genre or post-hardcore or whatever, when they try to do something different, they get lambasted for it.
Yes.
They get shit all over, and more so than other genres.
Yeah, I've
And
definitely noticed that Metallica tried. I don't know if you're familiar with some of
yeah,
their late '90s and early 2000s stuff. They really tried to diversify, and because they put out Load and Reload in 1996 and 1997, those were fucking good albums. Okay, I don't care what anyone says, and I will fight someone on this. Those are damn good albums.
the only band that I know of that I can think of off the top of my head that changed their sound a bunch and didn't lose fans is a band called Paradise Lost. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've heard of them.
They're like they're like a gothic metal band, but then they were also similar enough to like the hair metal stuff and thrash metal that they kind of blended into that a little bit. But in the '90s, they went down an electronic route, an electronic almost pop route.
Really?
Yeah, and they didn't lose any of their fans. From what I gathered online, they have stayed relevant within their fan base over the years, and they're still making music now, and they're still, playing those older songs. They're one of the only bands I know of that drastically changed their sound and didn't really lose anything from it.
Right.
But I think they had also been playing for like 10 years prior to doing that anyway. But it it's rare to see a band change their sound and then remain popular after it or keep the same fan base.
Right.
And I hope that this album does well enough for them, and that subsequent touring of it and stuff doesn't persuade them to go back to backpedal, because I want them to
Right.
continue this direction. Because I will listen to everything they put out if they
Oh, my
continue down
girlfriend's
this
calling me.
direction.
Hang on. All right, so we're gonna hot. Well, I guess just touch on something terrible came with the rain, because it's not much. It's an instrumental. It's a very nice instrumental. It's a very low, very um,
Yeah.
I like it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh,
very
I was gonna say it's definitely one of my favorites on the album.
yeah. Me
Something
too.
that came with the ring. I, I listen to a lot of instrumental music these days, so I really like that song. I think
Yeah.
that song is really nice progression. And it's simple and it's quick, but it fits.
It does. It does. It's like a nice interlude. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that's about all it is. It's a very very nice
Interlude.
interlude. It's very chill, but there's no lyrics. So there's not much to talk about. So we'll move on to Hollywood.
Okay.
Now Hollywood. I feel like it's very like because there's the line, "Prima donna is always finding out what you want because I can handle it." It's very like, bitches be
Yeah.
It's like, it. I feel like it's a little dumb, but I like it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then can you just say that I'm in love with the girl here in Hollywood? I get very I don't know if you're familiar. You're probably familiar with System of a Down, right?
Yeah.
Their song "Lost in Hollywood." I think it's off of "Mesmerize."
Uh,
No, okay.
that one.
It's a similar. I mean, it's Lost in Hollywood. It's basically a girl who gets like kind of pulled into Hollywood and taken advantage of by the elites or whatever. I kind of
Yeah.
get that vibe,
Mm-hmm.
especially the line, "I know that she's nearly dead, alone inside the burial device. It's so easy." It's very like I get that kind of thing.
That's probably what they're going for, or something like that.
Yeah, that's how.
Because that's that's a very realistic perspective
It is.
of Hollywood. It's one of those things that people, they move out there because they want to get rich and famous, and then they get shit all over and stomped in the mud.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I mean, that's what's gonna happen. That's what Hollywood is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true.
It is. Yeah. Only few make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hollywood is definitely a song that has grown on me as well, and it is probably my top five on the album, at least. It I just love the chorus. I love the ethereal
Yeah.
chorus that it has, and all the different variations of it throughout the song.
Yeah, and I feel like, sorry,
Mhm.
I feel like
No,
that
go ahead.
ethereal feel really fits with the subject matter too.
Yeah. It fits the song really well, and it's almost like it's it's not, you don't expect it to do that.
Right.
Just by song starts and the intro and all that, it does not sound like the song that would do that,
Right.
and then it does it, and then it does it multiple times, and it's also one of the only songs on the album that has screen vocals,
Right.
and it's handled very well in this song also. So, I think choosing Hollywood to put the screen vocals on also was an interesting choice, because Hollywood has a very diverse range of different sounds on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely they got some criticism for people thinking it was kind of drowned in the mix, or the vocals on this album or the song, but I don't really think so. After having listened to the song enough times,
I think
I don't.
I think it works for the song.
It does.
I think it's a good mix.
And you can make out most of what's being said, and you can
Right.
hear it. And the ethereal stuff isn't really meant to be understood anyway.
Right.
I mean, usually when bands do that, I mean, it's you're not really going to understand it anyway. It's just to set that sound, that mood.
Yeah.
It fits. It works. The song works on every level for me.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like Hollywood. I definitely got that System of a Down vibe with the lyrics, but
Yeah.
that Lost in Hollywood feel is really good. And I would like to do one of the System of a Down albums at some point here in the near future. So we'll see. We'll look into that for sure. But let's go ahead and hop on over to Raw, which honestly I was not super. This was one of the last three that I wasn't super versed in, but I remember Raw starting very quietly.
Raw is probably my least favorite song on the entire album.
Really?
I have to say. Yeah, it's tied with Varsity Hearts for being my least favorite. But I do think that they are excellent songs. So it's not that I don't like them or anything. They're not standout ones for me.
Right.
Um, but Raw, like, I mean, Raw is interesting. Um, but it definitely it's a catchy song. It's got some interesting stuff in there, and I think even there's a section towards the end of the song. I'm going to pull up the actual lyrics for it that is sung by the guitar player.
Really?
Uh, yeah, I thought I'd heard that. Or I thought I had seen that somewhere in a review. It's the in a hole part of the song. Um,
Yep. In a
towards the end
hole,
of it.
in a hole, in a hole, I can't get over you. In a hole, in a hole, in a hole, I can't get over you.
Yeah, and the whole song kind of has a. It's I don't know if it's referencing anything in or any particular movie because I know there's a few movies that kind of like focus on this, but I think the song is a lot about voyeurism,
Oh yeah.
uh, being in on people in intimate settings and stuff. I think that's what the whole song is talking about, and I think they even mention voyeur. Yeah, they even have the word in there. So
Yeah, multiple
I
times.
yeah I get the feeling that that's kind of what the song is playing on. Well, it's not necessarily referencing that in particular, but it's playing on that concept of looking in on something.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that for sure.
it's definitely, I mean, it's a good song. It's not
It's
um,
not it's not as amazing as the rest of the album, I feel like.
right. Yeah, it's definitely one of the weaker songs on it, even though it is one of the heavier songs, and people seem to like this one a lot too.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be one of those songs that'll sound better live than it does
Hmm.
on the recording. I get the feeling. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we'll go ahead and jump over to Varsity Hearts.
Mhm.
Um,
Varsity is okay. Um, it just I like it more than Raw.
Me too.
As it has cool moments to it, but I don't like the opening to the song a whole lot. I think the opening is a little weird, but that's
Yeah.
just me nitpicking something because it's not bad by any means. It's just it gives off a very high school football kind of feel, and I doubt that that's what they're really going for with
I
the
mean, it's
song,
called
but
Varsity Hearts. I feel like that's probably intentional.
exactly. And I'm not a sports fan. I
Yeah, me
never liked
neither.
football, so that doesn't appeal to me a ton. But
Also, where
um,
we're from, it's also like you have to like football. I feel like that's kind of the.
yeah, I mean, because we went to country schools, so I mean
Well,
that's
I
kind of
was homeschooled, but even still, like,
yeah. So I went to a country school,
yeah,
and it was like you either liked rap, which was strange for a school like that, or you were into big red trucks and honky tonk. You know, it's just like
yeah,
I'm not into those, so
yeah. That wasn't my scene.
yeah, it wasn't for me. I just remember was it going into ninth grade. There's a kid in particular that wore Metallica shirts every day, cargo pants, and then he went into ninth grade and he had a giant fucking belt buckle and cowboy boots, blue jeans, the whole, and then wore a cowboy hat walking in. And there was no indication of him liking country music or liking that lifestyle prior to high school. And I thought only in only in this area,
Yep.
only here, only in the country do you see that. It was funny. I thought it was hilarious, but
Yeah.
that's beside the point. Um,
All right, we've got about 2 minutes to run through Heroine.
okay, yeah. So the last song on the album, "Heroine," is my favorite song on the album by far. The song just works for me the whole way through. I like the lyrics a lot. The lyrics are really unique, and again, it references or it's going for a vibe given from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So that's kind of the influence for it. There's a scene in the third or in the third season, the homecoming or prom, I forget which one it was, where it's a really good emotional scene for the show, where everyone in their school kind of acknowledges and recognizes that this character Buffy is always there when weird shit happens in their school, which is every episode. She's always there, and she never gets recognition or thanks for it. And it's a great scene because then everybody recognizes her for that.
Right.
And it's the whole heroine. idea because she is an example of a strong, well-written female lead,
Right.
one of the best. Um, she perfect archetype for a female lead for a TV show.
For sure.
And I think with this album is kind of paying homage to that concept a bit.
Yeah.
And I think this song, I mean, whether the lyrics I don't think really reflect
Can you,
that a whole lot,
can you give me
but
1 second?
yep,
I'll be right back.
yeah, it's definitely my favorite song on the album. I like the way that the song kind of flows, and especially the later half where it's like the second major verse
Right.
where it starts with "We dance the night away together,"
Yeah.
and then from that forward, I really like that whole section because then it leads into the falsetto thing, and
Right.
it slows down, and then it gets right back into it.
Yeah, and I did.
I like,
I really
huh,
like the falsetto points in the album too. It's just like, you
yeah,
know, it's different enough to a point that it's like, okay, it
yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah, and I think the song it works the best in. I like everything about the song. Like I wasn't really sure what I thought about it when I first heard the song.
Yeah.
Uh, it would just kind of like it didn't really stick out to me. But the more I've listened to it, the more it really like I think it's the best song on the album,
Yeah.
hands
Yeah.
down. I'm not opinion. I think it is. And it's just and I've heard that it's some of the band members' favorite song on the album too. So
Right. I mean, that explains why it's the
that
title track.
it could be, yeah. And I guess it was one of the first songs written for the album too.
Well, gotcha.
So yeah, which it's a great song. I would like to hear more songs like it.
Yeah.
I like how it transitions all throughout it, and it's got a very kind of romantic kind of feel to it at times.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, but
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
Closing thoughts. Uh,
great album.
Great album for sure.
Really happy.
Me too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna be listening to this on the way to work the next couple of days, just going through it and kind of getting a feel for everything. Because obviously
yeah,
my favorites, my least favorites, and everything, but like especially I think Archangel and Valentine are probably my top two. Um,
mm-hmm.
Blue Velvet,
Yeah,
I think you liked it more than I did. Raw was just
yeah,
Raw and Varsity Hearts for me were kind of forgettable. So was Blue Velvet. Um, and I'll probably go through Heroine again here in a little bit, just because it's
yeah,
its own thing and it was a single. I didn't get to listen to that as much as I probably should have. Um,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely really great.
for sure.
I'm I'm impressed. It's made me a fan, and if they continue to do different things with their sound and progress kind of like this, I'll continue to listen to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love seeing metalcore bands branch away
yeah,
and do something more experimental, a little bit more unique, and that's
hmm,
kind of what they have done here, this
right.
band. So I respect that a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Takes some balls to do that, I
Yeah, yeah, it does.
guess.
It does, especially a lot of times when they don't. That's something I hate too, because it takes balls to change up your sound like that, and then when people don't like it, it's like, But like,
Yeah, well, they went hard right off the bat with this change. Like there was no indication that their sound was going to change, and then boom,
yeah,
first single drop. It was like, ooh, this is different, and people weren't really sure what to think about that because metalcore fans tend to get pretty I don't want to say cult like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they
that's accurate.
get, yeah they get a little extreme,
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they at least tried
hmm,
something different, and I
me
think
too.
that I think it worked really well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I might go through and have a listen to their a little bit of their first album just to kind of see what you're talking about. But I definitely really liked Heroine. I think it was overall a great album. So
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So
All right. Well, without further ado, hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. Let's see, it should be. I think we're just releasing on YouTube and Spotify right now because I couldn't figure out Apple Podcasts. Um, But yeah, any ideas on future albums that we should cover? Let us know in the description. Or not the description, comments. It's on the YouTube comments. I don't know if you can comment on Spotify. I don't think you can. But let us know. I mean, this will be out on YouTube, so comment down there. Let us know ideas. We'll have a look at them. Give them, but yeah, I don't know what we're doing next. I'm not gonna say next week, but next time.
Yeah.
If I say next week, it'll be 3 months.
Yeah.
But I don't. I go ahead.
Oh no, you keep going.
I definitely have some ideas. We'll have to. I mean, we'll talk about that. But yeah, that's. I think that does it for today's episode. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you.